Happy Vlogmas Day 1. It's quite interesting that I'm coming to you this Vlogmas in the same place that I started last Vlogmas, and that is in the trees. I'm at Mullaney to visit my family and see old friends, and that happened yesterday and last night, and now I'm driving back home. But before I left, I had to give you a shot of the trees. Yeah, so today is a bit of a travel day, the first day of Vlogmas. There's a busy day ahead. I've got to get started. So yeah, let's get in the car and get driving. I've travelled this road a lot, right? I've driven from Toowoomba to Mullaney since I was, 18 years old. And, when you know a road so well that you have little points along the road where you need to stop and pick things up. So I just did my first stop because the potato gems and gravy at Kilcoy are the yummiest potato gems and gravy I ever had, and I don't have potato gems in my normal life. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm not really that hungry, I'll just drive through. I couldn't. So I'm very happily driving along this beautiful part of my trip with my potato gems and gravy and listening to a podcast. So I'm very, very happy right now. I've still probably got another 2 hours of driving, so I'll see you on the other side. You can see that on the camera, but it's raining. Like this is drought country, right? So they haven't had rain around these parts for a long time. So it's very, very exciting to be driving under some dark clouds at the moment. Oh, so cool. I just had to record the rain because I haven't seen rain in so long. So I'm driving along thinking I've got probably half an hour to go. And what I'm thinking about is how tired I am, and how when I get home there are visitors there, so I will want to hang out with them, and reading won't really happen when I get home. Maybe it'll happen tonight, but I don't really know. So what you don't know is that sometimes I don't post the vlogs that I make, and that's just because of timing and all sorts of things. And that has happened in the last week. I've done a full weekly vlog, but I didn't finish it off. I haven't edited it. And then it's Vlogmas, and I just didn't get the timing right, and I wasn't really paying attention to what I needed to do. But I don't want to not tell you about this really amazing book that I read last week. So I read a book called Preservation by Jock Sarong. I picked it up because it was on the long list for the Voss Literary Prize here in Australia, which is the first time I've ever heard about that prize, and I'm really interested in it. And I've never heard of that author before, though he is quite a well-known author in Australia, and I found that out after having spoken to some people, and I'm like, yeah, totally. So what I want to do is do a little bit of a cheat on day 1 of Vlogmas, and I'm going to put in here the clips of me talking about this book. And it's going to appear disjointed. These clips happened all on different days as I read the book. But I just inhaled that book. I loved it. I loved the story, and I loved how it prodded me. And it made me think. And that's, Natalie's number 1 rule for any good book. I'm going to hand you over to last week, Natalie, and she will tell you about preservation, because I just didn't want to not talk about that book, and I think the best way for me to talk about any book is as I'm reading it. If I tried to tell you about it now, it would not be as interesting, that's for sure. So I'm going to hand you over to last week, Natalie, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow on Vlogmas Day 2. Sorry for the little cheat. It's much needed to do. Okay, bye guys. Hi, welcome to another vlog. I'm starting it off in the cinema. It's a really hot afternoon. It's Monday afternoon, and like the boys wanted to go to the movies. Like, why not? It's air conditioned. I can sit and read my book for a couple of hours. It's perfect. So I brought along Preservation by Jock Sarong. I haven't started it yet. This is an Australian book. Very excited about that. It was on the short list or the long list for the Voss Literary Awards? I'm bad at remembering those things. But it's a historical fiction book set in 1797. So it's on a beach near Sydney. A fishing boat picked up 3 battered castaways, and they have walked 600 miles. They were shipwrecked to the south. So yeah, their accounts of the ordeal is evasive, and it's Lieutenant Joshua Grayling's task to work out the truth. Yeah, there's a killer. It must be quite suspenseful. Anyway, I don't really know. I'm just going to start reading it now. The movie started not long ago. I've got them tucked in safely. Sit in the aircon and read a book. It's a win-win for everybody. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Guys, this is great. It started off really well. I'm up to chapter 7 now, so I'm 50 pages in. So it's kind of from different points of view at each chapter. So we have the point of view of what is he? He's not the governor, he's a lieutenant, so Joshua. We have the point of view of Mr. Fig or something, the tea merchant, but that's not really who he is, and he's revealed that to us. We have the point of view of the Clark guy, who it was his voyage to make money with rum and his ship got shipwrecked. And we also have the point of view of Joshua's wife, who's bedridden and who is suffering from something. I'm not too sure what it is, but has close connection to the native women. So there's so much going on. It's so compelling. There are mysteries already cropping up. There's people who aren't who they say they are. Oh, and the next chapter is the Man 7. So this ship came from Calcutta in India to Australia, full of rum and goods to trade. And yeah, so the Man 7 is an Indian man. Oh, there's just so much going on, and it's so exciting. Yeah, it's just super, super cool, and I'm super, super into it, and I cannot wait to just sit with it and read. Hello, good morning. It's very early on Tuesday morning. I woke up, and instead of trying to get back to sleep, I thought I need to pick up this book because I am so compelled by it. So I'm going to regret that decision later on today, I know it. But anyway, I got a bit of reading done before I went to bed. So I'm on page 120 and just so intrigued and compelled by this book. A couple of things I wanted to share. I'm in a bit of a different position in this book because there's this dude called Clark who commissioned the ship that got shipwrecked and is now in the care of the government because they found him. And he's recalling his story of how he came to, be rescued, whatever. But we know it's a lie because there are 2 other perspectives that have told us it's a lie. But I find myself reading Clark's perspective, like reading Clark's story, that's all rubbish that he's conveying to the lieutenant, and wanting to catch him out in the lie. And so I'm reading it and I'm thinking at the same time, this is pointless because this is a lie, but I need to know it so that I can catch him out later. It's a very interesting position to be in. I don't think I've ever done that before. But anyway, the other thing that's intriguing me is the representation of the native people. Clark had a manservant who was the Bengali man that came with him from India, and nobody's chatting to him at all. And he's the one that knows the real story because the other guy is really, he's sketchy. I don't like him at all. But nobody's chatting to him, and he's the one that's telling us, Clark's lying. But he just had an encounter with these native people and recalled that encounter, and it was so interesting.
And he's kind of giving them a voice at the moment. The other perspectives are all from Sydney and all white, and they're just kind of throwing in the idea of interacting with the native people in this kind of, well, it is a bit like it's tinged with fear. I've had up until now the only mention of the native people being that they need to put clothes on when they're in town, and the lieutenant and his wife have a servant that comes and goes. And yeah, there's still this sort of talk about, you know, the raids at the night and this bit of fear behind it. But the Indian man just recalled this interaction where he went into a group of native people who had never seen another person before, and there was no fear surrounding that at all. So yeah, it's kind of making me consider it every time it's brought up, which is really good. It's not a throwaway. It's something that I'm really thinking is placed there. I was starting to get a bit annoyed at the throwaway nature of the comments about the native people, but I think it's for a reason, because the perspectives are from white people, and now we have this Indian man's perspective, and he seems a lot more open, which might be just an interesting way of presenting this to us by the author. So I'll just keep monitoring that. Okay, there you go. That's a really in-depth early morning chat, isn't it? Right, I'm just going to keep reading and enjoying and consuming, and yeah, it's really, really fast-paced and compelling. I'm loving it. Okay, I'll quit chatting and go back to reading. I'll let you know if I fall back to sleep. Good morning. It's 5 a.m. on Wednesday. So I'm up early and I'm going to get stuck into this book. That's for sure. I can't stop thinking about it, which is just great. I just hope that it stays the course and doesn't get ridiculous. It has the potential to get ridiculous, I would say. There's a lot going on. So my fingers are crossed. Okay, I'm going to check in after this little reading session, let you know where I'm up to. I'm at page 162 now. And just, whoosh, there's so much going on. It's fabulous. This book is taking a really cool position, and I just wanted to tell you about it. Right now they're recounting their walks. This guy's got shipwrecked, and then they had to walk north to Sydney. They're just trying to make it to Sydney, and along the way they're encountering different tribes of native people. So what is being shown to us is two perspectives of this walk. One is of Mr. Clark, who is the white guy, and the other is of his manservant, who's a Bengali man. And the two accounts are so different, and it's so clever how Joxrong is doing this. So the white guy is dismissive of the culture, dismissive of how they're living, dismissive of what they have, who doesn't interact or engage with them. And like his account is very much, we did it all ourselves and they just were in the background. And then we get the real account, and what happens from the Bengali man. And what happens is that the natives keep addressing the Bengali people, who are the servants, over the white people. And they help them enormously. They feed them. Something really shitty just happened, like really shitty. And the native people were very understanding and forgiving and not aggressive at all, even though they bloody should have been. And yeah, the way that that's told through the Bengalis' eyes, the real version is so awesome. They talk about how they're living, their community, but the white guy is just like, nah, we just did it ourselves. And so, and when pressed about, you know, more information about the native tribes, he's like, don't worry about them. They're backwards. They don't have any sign of modernization. So yeah, this author is really setting us up to see those two different perspectives so clearly, and to gain that understanding of how threatened the white man felt by the sophistication of these people and how they could live in this wild environment, but could never admit it and dismissed it and was angered by it. And so interesting to me, the fact that this author has put in those dual perspectives, and the fact that the person who's telling the truth and is in admiration of these tribes is a person who is, you know, darker skinned himself, is quite interesting. Yeah, I'm into it. I think it's cleverly done, that's for sure. And I just think that this book just took a position in the last few chapters. It didn't have to. It could have just been about a shipwreck and a bunch of people walking. But the way that Jock Sarong has put in these first encounters with native people on coast that hasn't been trekked before is very, very clever and very, very interesting, and sort of claimed that position of commenting on native interactions with the white guys. So yeah, so this book is so much more than just the mystery about Mr. Fig and the shipwreck. So hooray, Jock Sarong. Nice work, buddy. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading. Just had to chat with you about that.
Guys, hi. That was a long day of work. It just felt like it was going on forever and ever, because I knew at the end of it, I get to sit in this chair and read this book. I've got less than 100 pages to go, and I am very, very excited to finish it. So leave it with me. I'll be back to tell you all about it soon. Okay, I finished it. This is one of those books where everything is not wrapped up and, you know, tied up with a nice, neat little bow. Things don't happen how you want them to happen. And what happens to the people that we become attached to and involved with is not triumphant. It's not vague. It's just that it's not wrapped up in that perfect way that I like everything to be perfect. I have such distaste for certain people, and I wanted things to happen to them, of course, but yeah, it kind of veered in a way that I didn't expect. I'm not unhappy with it. Please don't take this as being me not enjoying this book anymore or anything like that. It wasn't predictable. The ending wasn't predictable. That's all I'll say. God, this is a good book. It was a great story. A seriously compelling, interesting story set in the late 1700s in Sydney. An awesome sort of account of white attitudes towards Native people. There's a big difference between people who aren't near the settlement of the white people, so the First Nations people that are still quite untouched, and those that are trying to stay on their land, but the land is being taken over by commerce and white people trying to live a, progressive life. Yeah, so it's a great insight into all of that. I bloody enjoyed this book. I really, really did. It's not 5 stars because it's not, it's not emotionally, touching chords for me. It's definitely a 4-star book. I don't give half stars, but, it's a really good story. And this is the first time I've read this author. I've mentioned that, I think. So that's exciting for me as well. So yeah, I downed that book, didn't I? It was a lot of fun. God, I enjoyed that. Hooray.